Hello and welcome to this very special edition of the Megagame Assembly podcast, coming to you live from the OMG Con, broadcast live to literally some people. My name is Harrison, and I'd like to thank you very much for listening in or downloading this special edition episode. Before we get going, I'd like to introduce you to my fellow Megagame Assembly co-founders. First up, he's probably been to more Megagames than you've had hot dinners. In fact, he's probably playing one right now. It's Matt, Mr. Megagame Bambridge.
Hello, everyone.
Then he's old-fashioned and grumpy and loves nothing more than a full nuclear preemptive strike. It's Chris, Nukem from Orbit. It's the only way to be sure. Brown.
This is the only way to be sure. All right, thank you. How are you?
How are we doing in general, chaps? How are we doing?
I'm good. Have you got a intro for yourself?
No, I don't. I don't need to. That's the joy of doing the introductions. I don't have to big myself up.
So you're right to hide there. Well, then we have to say who we are. I don't think that's fair. Do you, people? Harrison,
I think it's entirely fair.
Today.
Sorry, Matt. You're breaking up. I can't quite hear. I'll just carry on with my introduction. So before we get stuck in, all three of us would like to dedicate this episode to a great friend and Mega Gaming chum of ours who sadly passed away a couple of weeks ago, John Powney, or JP, as most of you would have known him. If you've played a game in the UK, you'd almost definitely have met John. He was an absolute legend over here, bringing his unique blend of enthusiasm, encouragement, and ruthlessness to every role and game he played. And Mega Gaming genuinely won't be the same without him.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
So that said, who are the Mega Game Assembly? Well, the site was started by the three of us about a year and a half ago, I think. Essentially, we wanted to try and create somewhere that would be the first stop for anything Mega Game related online. We have a calendar of games, which is currently granted a little bit bare, showing all games happening anywhere in the world, which you can narrow down by region if you wish. And it now also features an online games list as well. And we have links and contact information for all the Mega Game groups around the world. We are completely neutral. We don't have a dog in the Mega Game fight, so we give preferential treatment to no one. However, bribes are always welcome. As well as our calendar, we have a blog, a podcast, and a Facebook group for discussion of anything you fancy, really. We also have a large collection of free-to-download Mega Games on our site, so any budding designers out there can download these to take them apart and see how other designers tackle the task of writing a Mega Game. We all three of us wanted the site to exist to try and get more people into Mega Gaming and try and make the barrier for entry as low as possible. So once you're done listening to us waffle on, check us out at megagameassembly.com. Right, that said, it's probably for me. So I'm going to hand over to Chris in a second to explain what we're going to be talking about tonight. But if anyone has any questions for us about anything at all, probably Mega Gaming is more our specialist subject, but why not put anything in there you want? Please send them to the chat, which is OMG Con Panel Questions, and we'll be doing a Q&A type thing in the second half once we run out of stuff to talk about. So, Chris, take it away.
Yeah, thank you very much, Harrison. That was another very good intro as usual. Right, next slide, please.
Next slide. Okay,
Next
let's see
slide.
if this works.
Can we do that? Oh,
That's where the professionalism ends, by the way, guys. It's all downhill from.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah,
anyway, all right. Like Harrison said, if you want to ask any questions, you can do it from the OMG Con Panel Questions channel. So yeah, we're happy to answer them. We'll probably pick them up at the end of this piece, but this initial piece will be on the Mega Game ticket survey that we kept hounding people to answer. So if we go to the next slide, we can talk a little bit about it. As you can see, my beautifully crafted presentation over many weeks has been ruined by Discord. I'm going to be writing a letter, an angry email to them later.
You had to put that in there, didn't you? You were really genuinely upset about.
I am genuinely upset. It's missing the G on warning. I'm now missing the entire slide, but whatever. It had warning written on it, but it's now just warning. I don't know. Maybe it's Aussie, maybe Australian something. It's just dropping the G. We should put an O on there, maybe. So I'm seeing the first screen again, Matt. I don't know if you want to go forward again.
For me, it's telling me I am. Let's start this again, shall we? If it's being awkward.
You want me to start my introduction again? Should we just pretend this never happened?
Yeah, absolutely. Just roll it from the beginning.
Hello and welcome to this space.
Okay, what can people see now?
I can still see
the first slide.
What?
There we go.
There's warning.
Right. Yeah, there's
Chris,
no warning.
Do you know that warning has a G on the end of it? Just
how dare you? Crafted that over weeks.
We should have spell checked this.
Wasn't me though, so bloody Discord. Anyway, warning. Yes, neither Matt, myself, or Harrison are pollsters. We don't do this for a living. So what you're going to see next is obviously some stuff that I put together essentially that we've talked about beforehand from the survey that we sent out. So bear in mind that we just aren't professionals at this. So what you'll see is our go at it. So please bear that in mind. Also, the other thing to understand is that obviously the people who did answer this survey, they are obviously very keen in mega games, more so than your average person out there. So they are self-selecting, and they will be skewed more towards that. So with those caveats in place, let's make a start, shall we? Okay, we got 124 people fill out the survey that we sent out, so thank you very much. All of our pesky pushing people to do it worked out for something, which is absolutely fantastic. Of those 124, I suppose it's not unsurprising that most of them hail from the UK, 58. Next up is from the US, 33, and then some people from Europe, obviously a few less from Australia and Canada. Yeah, the one with the two with the flags next to it essentially shows the basically other. They chose other. So those two other people would have seen questions in US dollars. That's the only change they would have seen. They would have seen the same questions as everybody else otherwise. And those 124 people, they played this range of games you can see in the bottom right-hand corner of the screen there. So basically, the most people in the year prior to COVID, so 2019, would have played 2 games. 34 people played 2 games. And then 1 to 1 and 3 to 4 with the next, and then obviously it goes down. So the sort of regulars, and we only got a few of those. Obviously, maybe 30 people from 5 games up to 10 plus. But yeah, so a fairly nice split, I suppose, across new players and people who play regularly, and obviously 15 as well who've never played a game. So obviously they'll be able to get to one after COVID ends at some point in the future.
Yeah. Next slide, Chris.
Yeah, go for it.
I'm just going to interject. It's actually really nice to see so many people attending kind of 7 to 9 and 10 plus games a year, where a few years ago that wouldn't have been something that was possible.
Yeah, for sure. And obviously, like I said, there's 124 people have filled this out. So obviously across the globe, there's obviously quite a few more than that. But that's the number we got to complete our survey. So the next 3 slides, I'm afraid they're going to be a bit of a noisy mess, as you can see on screen right now. What I've tried to do is, we'll just run through the slide, and this will be the same for every slide, basically. So you've got the 5 countries listed there. So you've got the UK, America, Australia, Europe, and Canada. And inside those, you obviously got the boxes showcasing what sort of what people answered as questions. So we'll go through those now. Like I say, it's a bit noisy, so do bear with. What I've done is all of the, and now obviously £30 is not equivalent to 30 Canadian dollars or 30 US dollars, but I've basically, every sort of numerical value is the same color. So £30, $30 is yellow, for example, and $40 or £40 is green. So hopefully you can sort of see that across the board there. But this question is, on average, how much do you pay for an in-person mega game ticket, excluding transport and accommodation and any other charges that would get you to the game? As you can see, if we start with the UK, the primary amount is £30, and that's what, if you've ever played a game in the UK, then you'll probably know that's the case. Basically, mega game makers, they obviously have been around the longest, and from the Shut Up and Sit Down video, which most of us probably on this podcast right now have all joined because of that video, joined the hobby from that. And so other groups that have started up and other people who run games have kind of used that benchmark, that £30 benchmark. So that's why the majority have paid £30 there. Looking across the others, I mean, obviously it's not huge numbers, as you can see. It seems to be roughly $30, $40 ish. Seems to be about the right price point that people pay at the moment. They're quite low figures, obviously, but yeah, speaking to various other groups around the world, they what they sold me as well was kind of correlated. A few US groups charge $20. I think the Australians charge about $20, maybe 30. So yeah, kind of correlates with that. I don't know if you guys got any questions or anything you want to say about that.
No, just the brief interlude to say that I hadn't noticed that you'd color-coded the numbers. You are a nerd.
Yes, and utter nerd, even though it's a very noisy screen.
Next slide.
That's all I've got on that.
Thanks. That's really useful input. I appreciate it. Cheers.
You're welcome. Happy to help.
Go on, next slide.
The next slide? No, that's the next slide.
Yeah. Yes. Okay. So again, the noise continues. But yes. So this question is: what is the most you would be willing to spend to buy an average in-person mega game ticket? And again, excluding transport and accommodation, and anything else gets you to the game. Yeah. Kind of. So again, the Brits majority would pay £30, which is what they currently pay generally. Obviously, some people would pay more, up to £50 there, as you can see. 16 would pay 40. So yeah, I mean, it's very much a hobby. I mean, as if we all didn't know that to begin with. This is very much a hobby experience, and I think the prices probably reflect that. Maybe people would pay more. We'll come on to that in a second, why they would pay more, but maybe they pay more if there's maybe better components or maybe a more suited venue, perhaps. But yes, across the board, again, you can see that roughly $50, $60 in the different countries, €50 there. Again, smaller numbers in the UK, but that's pretty much what people would pay up to as majority. Looks like, but I think it probably does depend on the kind of experience that they're getting. I mean, obviously it's an all-day experience anyway from Megagame, but it depends on, I guess, what extras might be possible to provide. Understanding that right now, I mean, I'm sure that most groups and designers are running things to a either to cost or to a deficit.
Yeah. What was really interesting about this slide to me was that for the Brits, £24, £30 is the first option. And then the first option in all of the others was the higher bracket. It was the 50, 60, 50, 60. So it very much kind of points towards there has been a standardization that's occurred in the UK.
Yes.
But people are, in general, in slightly newer markets, willing to pay a bit more. And Nathan from MGTX has put into the channel's question, it seems like it may be more standardized in the UK since hobby is going there for longer. And I would say that's exactly right. That would be my opinion on kind of why these results kind of look like this.
Yeah, for sure. Like I say, I think Megagame makers, obviously they charge £30, and I think everybody a lot of people have entered the hobby and started up new groups in the UK from the Shut Up Sit Down video of Watch the Skies. So sort of based the pricing on the same, it works for Megagame makers, it can work for everybody else. I think it's probably where it's gone. I'm seeing the first slide again, just to be a pain.
If I leave it alone for too long, does it? That's very amusing. So you're still just seeing the first slide?
Yep.
Yeah. In retrospect, Chris, I'm not sure it was necessary to put that slide at the beginning telling everyone that we're amateurs and we don't know what we're doing. I think they probably would have picked that up quite quickly.
I don't know what you mean. Like, it's total professionalism around here. 100%.
Is that better?
We got the beginning slide again.
First slide again. Yep.
Why?
Delilah?
No. In fact, no. First slide.
Still first slide.
No, it kind of moves to the next slide, then presents the first slide back again.
It goes out to be your desktop view, I'm assuming, and then clips back into the first slide.
Whilst you fix that, maybe we'll just carry on talking. But yeah, no. So it seems like yes, very much standardization in the UK. I guess obviously the hobby post Watch the Skies has been going 6 years now, 5 years, and obviously you've got new people coming in from that. So things have changed quite a bit already, and things might well change on the pricing front into the future. But right now, for sure, it's very much a case of standardized pricing.
I think it's also interesting though that in obviously, like you say, we've got the standard like Megagame makers model that we've inherited in the UK, but in countries where that isn't the case, it has also seemed to have landed around about 30 of whatever the local currency is, and I think that's an interesting phenomenon.
Yeah, for sure, it is, especially in the UK. I mean, I know we've talked about it before, but sort of escape rooms, generally, if they're in London, they're about £30 for an hour, and I know obviously you can't sort of really quantify an escape room with a Megagame. They're very different experiences, but obviously a Megagame runs full day, so it's very good sort of value for money in that respect, I think. Just paying £30. Okay, it's kind of just jumping around a bit, but it's fine. So for your first Megagame, when you knew little to nothing about the hobby, how much would you be prepared to pay? So this is the last of the busy slides, so hopefully we can get through this one. But again, focusing on the UK first of all, 25 people are the biggest chunk, so they will pay 30. So I don't know if that's because that's what they've already prepared, have paid in the when they first joined, and they think that's reasonable. It's hard to say, but yeah, some people in the UK would pay less, so 20 would pay less, £20 and £10. So that's quite surprising to me, actually, considering, like I say, you get a full day's worth of entertainment. So it seems quite surprising. But yeah, and then again, small numbers across the rest of the countries, but sort of around sort of similar pricing: $30, £20, $30, $20, €30. So yeah, I guess it probably ties into the lack of marketing. Obviously, most groups sort of advertise their games over Facebook, and there's not really the opportunity. There's no sort of videos past the sit down video really to showcase what the experience is like. So if people are going in not knowing what they're going to expect, then it's very much harder to push the price any higher, I'd imagine.
Yeah, and I think you can kind of see that again, we talk about escape rooms a lot when we talk about kind of comparisons, whether rightly or wrongly. But when you go to an escape room, you might look up some kind of reviews as, is this a good escape room? But essentially that doesn't exist for the majority of mega games, other than Watch the Skies and Den of Wolves and a select kind of other couple. They're not being run time and time again. There's very little ability to kind of judge the experience that you're going to have, and it is a full day, and it looks like a hectic one at that. If you look at the shut up and sit down videos, and they are hectic days, which to those of us who do a lot of them, that's what we love about them. But if you're going to launch yourself into it, are you going to pay more than, say, in the UK, 30 quid for something you're very unsure about, very few people have done, and you've got no standardized measure for?
Yeah, that's absolutely right. Yeah, I mean, you expect to put a full day of your life into it, plus pay a certain amount of money. Yeah, if you have no idea what's coming, then yeah, I can absolutely understand that the average person would be not necessarily interested in paying too much more. But yeah, okay, cool. So they're the three sort of very busy slides. Maybe if we move on to the next one.
No, it's smooth professionalism all the way. Or not, as the case may be.
Are we on the next slide?
We are not. No. We're still seeing the same slide. Yeah.
I'm beginning to hate Discord in quite a profound way.
It's not really a sort of Microsoft Teams experience, is it?
No, thank God.
Right now?
Quite that professional. Nope. Do you maybe want to just go back? Oh, okay.
Switch it off and switch it on again.
I can do that too. That's all good.
Yes,
I blame Discord.
It isn't having a great time picking up the presentation screen.
To be honest with you, you had a better chance than me because I was just seeing a white screen whenever I tried to share it. So we're up on that point.
Right. Okay. So we're going to do something slightly different. And oh joy! Now it just doesn't want to show me PowerPoint at all.
So whilst you're filling with that, let's go back to the questions then. So yeah, Alex says us Brits clear like cheaper things, and I think you're probably right, Beck. I know I do. I'm very much.
It's probably the only reason Chris got into Mega Gaming.
Oh, a whole day's worth of experience for £30. I'm in. It sounds very cheap. I'd like to deny, but I can't.
While we're fighting with the technology, Alex has said, "Is there a case for cheaper first game tickets? Maybe tempt more newbies in." So this, what I assume, would be the idea that if this is your first ever Mega Game, you get a discount on the ticket. So we have kind of we've had various pub conversations with various groups around the country for such a thing. And I guess the problem would be that I see immediately with that is that there are so many groups running games that those sort of systems, and we've also spoken about that kind of a system, it would be kind of a little bit hard to implement, I suppose. You just have to, every group would be on their own for deciding if that's someone's first Mega Game. So you could have someone going around and declaring every game to be their first Mega Game, which, might not be the end of the world. But I think it's an interesting idea to get people into the hobby. But obviously that would be very much down to the individual game runners to make that decision.
Yeah, for sure. I know that Johan from Gothenburg Mega Games in Sweden, I think he's done that before. But there's obviously, I guess, there's sort of the price theory as well. If it goes below a certain price, people don't value it, whatever the experience or the goods are. And so they obviously won't necessarily turn up even, or even think that they will pay that price because they'll think that the experience is too low, too not quality. So it's a difficult thing balancing, I think.
Yeah. Matt, some people are suggesting you stay out of presentation mode. I don't really know what that means, but That's the advice from the chat.
Yeah.
Cue Matt swearing
beautiful-
into his microphone.
My beautiful presentation, not in presentation mode. I don't know if I can cope.
we can see it now. Yeah, we can see it
yes, there we go. Here we go. Right, okay, so now we come out to the less busy slides now, to the final questions. So basically, there's 4 questions on this slide, and obviously running from strongly disagree on the left to strongly agree on the right. So the first question is, I would pay more if I knew a Megagame was being held in a better venue. So it's theme appropriate, it's close to public transport, maybe it's got better facilities, perhaps it comes with food, I don't know. But yeah, those kind of sort of things, basically. And you can see there that sort of pretty much the overwhelming majority, really, 75%, would pay more, which is kind of surprising to me. So I guess, I mean, venues in London cost enough anyway, I think, looking at them recently. So I'm not sure that it would be viable. I mean, I've certainly looked at different venues, and they do, I mean, you can end up spending an absolute fortune, and I'm not sure it's really appropriate. But yeah, it looks like there's depending on what people consider to be better venue, I suppose. But yeah, that certainly is the biggest cost for most organisers and designers, I think, when they're running their games.
Yeah, I think this is one of the first of many examples here of why you'll see that we're not pollsters. The wording of that is probably a little bit open, but I think, like you say, venue is going to be one of the biggest single costs to run a game. When I looked at that question, I was picturing something like a medieval game played in a castle or something like that, or like a modern day Watch the Skies played in a nuclear bunker or something along those lines.
Yes.
So I that would purely be about theme for me, and I think that would be quite cool. But yeah, clearly some people agree with me.
Yeah, I mean, I do some LARPing on the side, and there's a lot of LARPs where you pay a significant amount of money to go and spend a day or a weekend in kind of a very theme-appropriate type of venue. And I suppose essentially what that question might indicate, and I will heavily caveat the might here, is that there may be room to do games that are more expensive and lean slightly more into the slightly LARPy elements that you see when lots of people turn up in costume for a game. So
but the problem is then we have to have the argument about when a mega game becomes a LARP, and I don't particularly want to engage that any more than I have to.
And I think that question is totally irrelevant. And if you want to call your game a mega game, and run it in a castle with everyone dressed up as medieval knights, then call it a mega game. And I'll mirror Jim earlier from the Mega Game Makers talk earlier. There's basically no use to be had in a bit of discussion about what qualifies to be a mega game. Life is a bit too short for that. So if you'd like to run a mega game in a castle that is slightly more LARPy, then give it a go. Absolutely, just give it a go and see if people will explore that kind of price boundary.
Yeah, absolutely. It seems like, well, according to the terribly wordy question, they might willing to. Moving on to the next question, I would pay more if I knew better components were being used. I know this is one of my favourite topics, is better components, but yeah, so you've got roughly 65%, 64% there who would be willing to pay more potentially, versus 35% that wouldn't. I think it comes down to maybe like you just mentioned about set dressing and stuff. I mean, at the sort of price point in the UK, I don't think it's viable really most of the time, especially if games are one shot. As much as I do like better looking components, it just isn't possible, I don't think, because I think the designer is either running at cost or even at a loss to run their game. So maybe if it seems to me like there is a trend for more continuation of running games, sort of not just once. So maybe if that's possible, then putting some of the potential extra money back into the game and better components might be a viable idea.
Yeah. I think it speaks to theme appropriate venues and really cool looking components and miniatures on maps and props for political players, all that kind of thing. I think that all adds to immersion, which I think is more important to some players than others, and maybe to some games it fits better than others. But as you'll hear me say on almost any podcast I ever do, the thing I love about mega games is it's a wide enough hobby that all of these sort of things can exist. You can have, I think, anything from a really, really meaty, grindery kind of mechanical to something that is borderline LARPy, where you don't really have mechanics and it's just people sitting around the table chatting. And like Matt said, you can call both of those things a mega game and anything in between. And I think that's the beauty of this hobby.
Yeah, for me as well, I know when I've been to games with great components. So there was a Star Wars themed one up in Dundee a couple of years ago, and I'll say this about a lot of things almost constantly, is what you're seeking to do in a mega game is drive a sense of catharsis. Now, obviously, components aren't the be all and end all for that, but I do think that a good set of components can definitely help people relate to what's going on the mechanical sides of the game, and when they get bigger, when they get destroyed, when they disappear, that can help drive senses of catharsis, because that's what we're looking for. We're looking for those senses of relief. We're looking for those big moments where you've done the trench run on the Dreadstone, or where you've blown Harrison up while doing a live TV broadcast. All of these things.
25 minutes in, Matt. You lasted 25 minutes. Well done.
It's longer than normal. Well done.
I think that's a new record. A new record. Or take, for example, the great components that we used in Mirror Shape. That one where I beat you in that election. That was also good, wasn't it?
Yeah.
All right, boys. All right. How am I being the voice of reason here? This is unusual. I don't like it.
This is what we drive you to, Chris.
Because I beat you in that election as well, Chris.
I don't remember that.
No, I don't think you would.
Anyway, moving on. I would pay more if I knew I would be guaranteed up to busy all day. So here we've got roughly 68% saying yes, that they would. So we cross agree and strongly agree. And then roughly 30% saying that either strongly disagree or disagree on that one. For me personally, I certainly would pay more. And I obviously, you can't guarantee anything with mega games. You could have one run of a game running really well, and the next time round, all sorts of people not having a great time for whatever reason. So it's very up in the air. So it's probably unfair to say guarantee, but I very much personally enjoy being overloaded, much like the sort of 60-70%. The odd, the people who agree and strongly agree. I much prefer to be overloaded on a day, and if I don't do things, they come back to bite me in the arse later on, then that's absolutely fine.
Yeah, this kind of speaks to, as a hobby, doing more marketing and being clearer when we're kind of doing casting questionnaires, when we're doing kind of people choosing roles, exactly what they're signing up to be doing, because it's not just about people being busy all day. It's people being busy in a way that they like being busy. And in the UK, Becky from Becky Blogs kind of pioneered the way in kind of doing casting questionnaires. And I think that's a really important thing to do, finding out what someone wants. But it is about that marketing of being able to tell someone, this is what you're looking to do for 8 hours of your life on the Saturday or Sunday, you're going to do it. And so they can have more of an idea if they think they're going to do that. Because looking at kind of some of the stats that are out there, there's plenty of new people that have come into mega games and then gone away after one game because they didn't have enough fun. Now, is that because mega games aren't for them, or is it because we had games with filler roles, and we've probably all been to at least one game with a filler role where they weren't busy enough all day? So there's a lot more consistency we need to get out, and basically, I think in my head, those people telling us that they're going to pay more if they can guarantee they're busy are basically telling us what we need to do in terms of their expectation management.
It also starts to verge into the idea of people paying different amounts of money for different roles in the game. So rather than just paying and saying, I'd like to be on this team, you pay, say, for example, more money to be the US president at watch a lesser role, or you buy the exact role you want and you pay an extra amount of money for that, which I think is an interesting question to consider, and may not be something that anyone has considered before.
Yeah, I know that when our sort of group of mega game friends have discussed it before, there's been, as you'd imagine, kind of people on each end of the scale of, that's a terrible idea or that's the best idea ever. So yeah, I guess until somebody potentially trials that, then maybe we won't know.
Yeah.
Okay, final question on this slide. I wouldn't pay any more than I currently do to attend a mega game. So this is a bit backwards. Again, we're not pollsters. So what you're seeing here is the strongly disagree, which is adding up to roughly 76%. They are saying that they would pay more. I think, as long as they read the question the way that I wrote it. Good luck, everybody. So yeah,
I think they're not saying that they wouldn't not pay.
That's very clear. Thank you. I appreciate your valuable input there.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
So yeah, so basically, there looks like across the board that, well, not across the board, vast majority would pay more, and maybe for the reasons that are stated above, plus probably many more others. So it looks like there is at least some giveaway, give in the sort of, at least in the UK, £30 price point. But obviously, I wouldn't imagine that just upping the price and not doing anything else differently would be sufficient for most people to pay more, I would think.
Yeah, I think one of the only things you can take from it definitely is that there is an appetite for people to pay more money for a Megagame ticket. Particularly why that is, I think it's going to vary massively from person to person. So that we're unable to say, but I think we can pretty confidently say that there is a taste and a market out there for people to pay more money for a Megagame ticket for a variety of reasons.
Yeah, that's certainly what these kind of questions seem to represent, and the kind of slides up where we talked about, well, people answered, how much would you be willing to kind of pay? So there's definitely some room there when you're attacking people or you're questioning people on kind of individual issues. Do you want to go to the last slide, Chris?
Yeah, go for it. Okay, so yes, it is. Well done.
It's only taken us to the down. Well done.
Yeah, it's all good. Right, okay. So second to last question then. So what would stop you paying more to play a Megagame? And obviously we allow multiple answers here, so that's why you're seeing many more than 124 answers. So go across the board there. The highest one will start with green in the middle there, which is if it's the first run, you can't be sure of its quality. And I certainly do worry about that as well. I've been to first runs of games and not had a particularly great day sometimes because things. It can almost be described as the first real play test of the game when it's fully rolled out to everyone who's going to play it. So that does concern me. So that definitely resonates with me. Then you kind of got in second and third. You got the orange and red columns there. So red is I cannot afford to do so. Totally understandable. And orange, I don't know the designer's track record. I guess that sort of goes a little bit with the green value as well. If it's somebody who I've never heard of before, then I would be reticent to pay more to play a Megagame, or even possibly £30 in the UK if you don't know what kind of day you're going to get. Then we go down to the yellow on the right hand side. You've got 38 people saying, I'm not sure I'll be busy enough for the entire game. And I think, like you mentioned, Matt, just now, it goes back to not necessarily being busy, but being, doing things you want to do that you enjoy. I know for certain I'm much more a political player than I am a mechanical player. So if you stuck me on a map and I was busy all day, I think I'd probably hate it. So yes. And then
busy is not equal amongst players. I think that's definitely true.
Yeah, very much so.
Yeah, what one person considers busy and another will be very different, and it will also be different for an experienced player to a new player. The amount that I will handle during a day now, having played 70 plus games, is very different for the first couple of games I played, where I was just kind of overwhelmed by stuff that I would now I would find quite simple. So when we talk about are you going to be busy enough for an entire game, we do need to be aware that possibly unhelpfully for us in the community, that is not going to be equal for people. And that kind of talks to a range of roles and flex in roles and what people can do in teams so they can help people who may be struggling out, and to player control whose day is just to make sure that players aren't getting overwhelmed, and especially new player control.
Definitely. And I think, Megagame Makers folks talked about it this morning, but obviously new player control is kind of a new thing in the UK, and I think it's being used by more groups, which is absolutely fantastic, because obviously, my first game was Skies 4, so I was completely overwhelmed that day with 300 people in the room plus me. So yeah, absolutely, being able to see somebody and say, look, I don't know what I'm doing, or can you give me some help, or what do you think to this idea, or have you got any suggestions for me? I think that's an absolutely fantastic idea. Okay, and then so the final question then. So two-parter here. So does knowing that a Megagame will run for cost mean that you pay more for a ticket, or does it, knowing that you'll be paying will go to a profit for the Megagame designer, would you may pay more for the ticket? So starting with the cost, there's obviously an overwhelming agreement that people would pay more, and I think, at least in my mind, these kind of two sides of the same coin. You've got an overwhelming desire not to pay anymore if it's going to go to profit, and I think that I mean, certainly doing some research with various different Megagame groups around the world, and obviously running this survey. It goes without saying, Megagaming is extremely niche and very much a hobby experience across the board. I mean, I don't know of any commercial leisure groups out there at all. It's all hobby groups, and those are mostly running either at cost and breaking even, or for their games, or they're losing money on their games. So I think that, like I say, two sides of the same coin for me. The cost or the profit. I mean, you're probably not paying the designer for their time, even if you work it out. Sort of, if the country you're in has minimum wage, you're probably not even working out the amount of hours the designer would spend designing their game. And then you've obviously got everything else: venue hire, component costs, maybe hire for something to get everything there in the day, so on and so forth. So I think even if you are talking about profit, you're probably only talking about even covering, the Megagame designer's time, at least in my mind, where we are currently. But yeah, obviously the overwhelming agreement that people will pay more if it's covering cost, and maybe that's something to point out to people if you're selling tickets. But there's obviously little desire, or a lot less desire, for doing it if there's a profit involved.
Yeah, I kind of like to jump in here and kind of, there's a little bit of a discussion going on in the kind of panel questions, and kind of with Anthony Huego kind of going, there are a bunch of things designers, gamers could spend money on that would improve the game, but don't crop up on people's radar because there's never been the money to consider doing it. And then kind of John Kay, so there's a massive jump in the cost, so you need to run an expensive game multiple times. So those are kind of good points. There is, I would say that from having talked to a wide array of people, that very few people make any particular money on the first run of a game. The money, if you're going to make any, comes from running it multiple times and from selling the design. So unless you're going to go for a big kind of experience style package where you're charging quite a lot of money, you're taking people out to that country house, you're giving them food, and you're putting money on top for that. And let's face it, all fully kitted events like that are not the biggest money makers to start with. You're going to struggle to make money. So it is in multiple runs of a game that you are going to make money rather than the first single run of it.
Definitely.
That kind of, that a mid-game will run for profit means you pay more ticket sales, and people being anti that, to me, means that basically we haven't done a good enough job at a hobby recognizing the amount of work that goes in from designers, and means that we haven't done a good enough job in marketing that there's a value proposition and something that you're enjoying for a day. Because people are fine to go and spend their 30 quid for an hour and a half's entertainment in an escape room. So what is it about what we're doing in mega games that means people getting cagey about that a designer might be making profit on it? So we need to reestablish the value prop, and that will speak to solving things like, are people busy all day, providing a consistent sense of catharsis, expectation management around the game. So that the answer to that question there should not be a signal to anyone to be put off. It should be a signal that we need to work on the value prop and the marketing that we're doing. For me, anyway.
Yeah, no, I mean, I agree. I think the trouble is we're all roughly on the same page with this, I think, between the three of us. But yeah, I mean, it's interesting to see the stats, though. Like I say, we're not pollsters. There are only 124 people who responded to this survey. So take it with sort of those kind of caveats. But yeah, it is interesting to see the kind of where things have landed in this one time with this particular survey. But I agree. I mean, yeah, I think if there's more money is able to be invested in either through multiple runs of a game that can then be reinvested inside the game, then that's obviously can only be good for everybody involved. But yeah, if a game is just run once, then obviously it's highly likely to be done either for cost or for a loss, which is unfortunate, but it's where we are right now.
Yeah, I think the like I say, the one thing we can really draw from the numbers is that there are people out there who want to spend more, and particularly that last question about knowing that the game's going to be run for cost. I think just simply saying like we're unlikely to make any money from this, so giving people the ability to pay a little bit extra with their ticket to help you cover the costs, so you don't always like get put out of pocket by the end of it, something like that, I think would probably be a sensible addition to most designers and organisers to put on their pages.
Yeah, it does seem that way. Absolutely. Yeah, for sure. And certainly most of the international folks that I spoke to, and even the folks in the UK, the designers and groups in the UK, honestly, they're all either running for loss or for cost. There is no profit. As much as we've asked about profit, there is no profit in Megagames.
There is
I mean,
no
I think
profit on a single run of a game.
no, absolutely. Well, yes, that's true. Yes.
Again, to go, there are designers in the UK who do make money off multiple runs of games, but they're few and far between. They're
Very
very
much so.
few and far between. But it can be done if you're running a game multiple times. So if you're aiming to make money, then you need to understand that you need to be running your game multiple times. And just going back to the kind of chat, John from West Coast Games is talking about how the expectation in the US is that you might pay control, and Anthony has talked about that. So when I was helping run kind of street games a few years ago, and again, they were priced at about 20 quid a ticket for an hour and a half's worth of entertainment. And there would be 5, 6 people there helping control the game, and they would all be paid 30 quid for that hour because there was some time beforehand, some time after. And that is something that no one, when you're turning up to that street game to run around London for an hour, is thinking that people are just making this for cost. So again, what is it about Megagames where we've become so obsessed about people not making a profit off the huge amount of effort that they're putting into it? Is it that it comes across as an amateur experience? Is it about components? Is it about consistency of the games? That is the thing we really need to drill down, because this is something that people do for fun, right? And there's plenty of examples of other hobbies where people are willing to pay more for that and kind of compensating designers. So if anyone is going to look into that, and maybe it's something us here at the Mega Game Assembly to do, it's something to kind of drill down on where does the so closely tied mentality come from?
I think as well, there seems to be this kind of nervousness that anyone says around making a game to kind of make money, and it's really more in my mind anyway, and I'm not speaking on behalf of everybody, but my mind, it's more like if we can get to the point where running a mega game isn't going to default to costing you money as well as costing you the amount of time, that would mean that there's more people out there who will make games, who'll run games, and we'll get more games out there for people to play. That's what I think the advantage would be. If we could help people to get to the point where if you run a mega game, you don't end up being hundreds of pounds out of pocket or hundreds of whatever your local currency is, as well as the hours and hours and hours sink into running it. I genuinely think that people sitting down to crunch the numbers and realizing how much of a time and money sink it can be to run a game puts people off from running games. And as I said in our introduction, we want the barrier to entry to mega games to be as low as possible. And I think a big part of that is getting more people making mega games, more people running mega games. And if we can help people get to the point where they're not going to automatically lose money, I think that would be a really valuable thing.
Yeah,
I
couldn't agree more.
Yeah, the more games people are able to run, it does kind of allow people to pump up the innovation, and you've really seen it in the UK scene in the last kind of 3 or 4 years with different groups kind of pushing the boundaries, and the more they're able to do that and kind of making sure they're not making a loss, the more of those you'll get. So you've got people like Becky kind of doing Trump High. You've got the guys up at True North Mega Games who did It Should Belong in a Museum. Alex doing Mirror Shades. These are all radically different games to the ones that we've seen, especially in the immediate previousness from it. So it would be great to kind of foster as much of an environment on that as we can. That said, obviously, I'm pushing that I think that people should be, if they want to run mega games for profit, they absolutely should. If you're in a community that just wants to run games for cost, there's absolutely nothing wrong with that, and people should absolutely continue to do that. That's where we started, and there's a lot of fun to be had that way.
Most
But
definitely.
if people can and they're willing to take the risk, I think there's a lot of good stuff that can come out of higher production qualities, being able to spend a little bit of money on control, more play testing before games, and that type of thing. So I think there's a lot of rich ground that we could explore as a hobby if there was more money available to designers and game runners.
Yeah, so you just mentioned control, and a few people are chatting about that in the text chat as well. But yeah, I mean, all these things we're talking about now obviously don't even include the fact that control are not even paid. They're very generally volunteers, and if you paid control sort of minimum wage in the UK, I think it's £7-8 an hour now, for a full day. It's I mean, you're barely breaking even already, and then you're starting to pay your control players. It's not viable at all.
Only two of you,
We've got someone else live in here talking.
Not anymore. They've muted. I think just to again to reference going on in the chat, Alex and John Kewith having a conversation about it, and John Kewith said that breaking even is good, and Alex has said I would agree, but in an ideal world, I'd love that to include my time as an organizer and designer, make it professional so I could do it full time, which inevitably would lead to better games too. And I think that's basically what we're talking about here. If we got to the point where there were full time mega game designers and so forth, I think there would be so much more variety, innovation, and quality in the hobby that I think it would be an incredible thing.
Yeah. I mean, obviously, we're saying all this from a perspective of 2020, all sitting in lockdown, but it's also very much a hobby experience right now, and which is great. I mean, we all love it. The reason we started Megagame Assembly is because we love mega games, and I don't think ever the hobby experience should go away. But it's about obviously what may develop in the future.
Yeah, and going back to my previous point again, I think mega gaming is vast enough that both can exist, off of each other, and and there'd be nothing to stop the hobby side benefiting from it as well. Like people are running and playing games, let's be honest, there's more things for the designers to pinch, more ideas for them to see working and take and put into their own games, more games to people to go to learn stuff from other games. I think just generally it would just be a benefit to the community at large, and whether that's the hobby side, the professional side, or what have you.
Yeah, most definitely. So we plan to basically sort of put these results on our webpage. So in the next couple of days, you see a blog post, and we'll publicise it a little bit. But yeah, basically we'll make all the data available in a CSV format. So if you are better at Excel than I am, which let's be honest, pretty much everybody, then you can certainly play around with the data, take it away, have a look at it, see if you can produce some better charts with less noise than I could produce. Yeah, we'd love to see what other people think as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So I guess at this point we turn it over to questions, unless either of you have got anything else to say about these.
No, I think I'm good.
Yeah, I think we've whittled on about these. So it would be, great for questions for us, either as having kind of played games or kind of wider experiences that we've had across the hobby, because I think as the three of us, we've been quite lucky to have a fairly wide experience across the hobby.
Yes, so send us your Qs. We have As, probably.
Well, maybe.
Who's the most senior member of the Megagame Assembly? We are a cooperative, Anthony.
I would say that's Grandfather Brown, because he is senior in many ways to us.
God, awful. Talk about age, please. Fucking hell. Hateful.
Get off his lawn is basically what he said.
Chris if you're not careful.
Yes, Chris is a tender 82.
He doesn't look a day over 70.
I hate you both.
Love you too, Chris.
So how many games have you? Sorry, go on.
No, go on.
Yeah. How many games have you been to now, Matt?
Yeah, come on, tell us. We want to know.
Start with that one.
So the last time I counted, it's not 8,002. I wish it was. I think I just crested 70 with the last couple of online games that have been going on, and that is since the first game I attended, which was one of Jim's kind of universe games for Warwick University. I kind of put in a car with Jim. Jim was very helpful enough to provide me a lift up, and I played Venetians there, which was great fun. And then after that, I think my next game was the second run of Funeral Games, which is absolutely fantastic. By Rob, and then straight into Watch the Skies 2, which is an entirely different beast.
Aren't you doing a watch party of Watch the Skies 2 tomorrow?
I am indeed, so everyone should also tune into that.
Nice pitch, Chris. Nice pitch. Beautifully done.
Good swerve there, wasn't it?
Okay, so Alex has asked, what have been your favourite games of the last couple of years? And he says you don't have to mention any of his, which is lucky because, yeah. Anyway.
Last
Chris,
couple of years. Oh
favourite
God, don't
game
put
in
me
the
on
last couple of years.
my slow old brain will have to think. Last couple of years.
Okay, Matt, favourite game in the last couple of years.
Oh, God damn it, Harrison. Favorite game in
I'm the moderator, so I don't have to come up with answers.
I don't think
I
that's true.
volunteered for this
That's
job.
clearly not true.
Yeah. Okay, in the last couple of years. It's a really hard one because there are so many kind of great games.
I know.
The Crisis and Elysium game, which I think might just kind of sneak under that. I had a great time at that game. I really, really, really enjoyed Deep Haven over at Gen Con last year.
That was good.
Kind of wheeling and dealing and turning myself into some type of underworld figure because I couldn't get any of the other resources that I needed. So I turned to crime instead, which I think we can agree is the only reasonable way.
When in
to
doubt, turn to
actually
crime.
go.
That's how we always go, isn't it? Come on, Chris, have you had enough time to think of anything?
Just about. I think
on.
I'm going to go with Becky's first run of Everybody Dies, which was the Game of Thrones mega game. I was got co-opted into the game at the last minute, probably like a week before I got a ticket because somebody else dropped out. And I went along as one of the maesters, and we had a secret plot, which was to kill all the Targaryens, because I can't remember why, but there were reasons. And we almost managed it. There were three of us. We almost managed it. We managed to kill, like, poison the children, throw them out windows. It was terrible. It was horrific. But we almost managed it. And then we were just going after Daenerys, and somebody else called Rob Grayson, who I didn't know at the time, but has become a good friend since. He interjected and whisked Daenerys away from us and saved her, and I'm sure that will be fine. Obviously, what damage could a 10-year-old girl do, really?
Absolutely none. Absolutely.
No, that's what I was thinking. So we were close, but it doesn't matter. We almost got them all.
Okay, Ed Silverstone would like to know what's one design trend or game mechanism you'd like to see more of, and why.
I think it's your turn to go first,
Yeah.
No. I'm the moderator. We've been over this.
That sounds like a complicated question.
Okay, fine. Sod it. I'll have a crack. So someone's going to have to help me with the name of the game, but it was one that was run by Pennines, and in it there was a mechanic of time. So everyone, depending on how powerful they were, had a certain amount of time to spend, and you could go and spend your time doing various things. So as long as you had the time to spend, you could do whatever you wanted, but it made you make sort of restricted decisions. And it wasn't Megagame. Junters. There we go. Thank you.
Oh, okay. I was going to say I didn't remember that one. I didn't go to that.
Yes,
No, oh yeah, I did, didn't I?
Yeah, you did.
Chris's memory is failing him in his old age.
It's the age.
Alzheimer's is kicking in. I'm sorry. I can't. What can I say?
But yes, I thought that was very interesting design mechanism I hadn't seen before. There you go. I've answered the question. It's your turn.
For me, I think it should be I Belong in a Museum, which was one of the True North games, which had some really compelling kind of story and quest mechanics in it. It also appeared in a pirate game that was done in Pennines as well. And I really like that and I said I'd bang on about it, as that sense of catharsis when you're going through these quests, kind of gathering resources, and then you get to complete them. I think they're really good ways to drive player engagement, and the good thing about them could be they don't have to be all-day things, so you can get that kind of cycle of reward going by doing multiple of these in a day. So yeah, I really, really like that, and have been intending to put them into my own game, which I'm designing at the moment.
My understanding was there was an awful lot of rum consumed in those pirate games. Was that affecting your judgment at all on how the mechanics were?
I couldn't possibly speak to that.
No, I'm sure. Chris, has the old mind kicked in yet? Have you thought of anything?
Well, I'm gonna copy Matt, because it was the Pennines pirate game. I can't remember exactly what it was called, but yes, basically, I had a fantastic day. I was with Jerry and another guy, and we basically were the pirate king gang, and got ousted by the British from the pirate island in like turn one, because they came along and bombed us and got us out of there. But we had an absolutely fantastic time stealing things from the British ships, going after crocodiles with massive gems in their stomachs. Yeah, doing all sorts of random crazy quests. I think even the control member for that day, he ran out of quests, I think, because I kept going to him and he kept start writing them down in front of me. It was excellent. It was a really, really fun mechanic, and I absolutely loved it.
Excellent. Okay, next one from John K. If you had an extra £1,000 to spend on running a game, what would you spend it on? And I'm going to go to Chris for that one.
Oh God,
he loves spending money.
I'd save it. I'd put it in the bank. Not the right answer. No. Okay.
No, I don't think that's what we're looking for.
Damn it! I've got to spend it. Okay, I'd probably split it between components to get better components, and also maybe focus on, because obviously designers maybe have a passion for a certain part of a game, but potentially they may not have a passion for another part of it. So if they didn't like every sort of part of their game, then maybe trying to get somebody else involved, pay them a little bit of money to focus their time on designing another part of the game that might be brought up to the same sort of standard.
Nice, Matt.
Yeah, so I think there are a lot of things that contend for that for my mind. Some of them, one of them is obviously the kind of components, graphic design, kind of set dressing. All of those things can be really evocative. Kingdom of Seasons was really good with the art that was commissioned for that, and it added a real sense of what was in the universe. The other thing that you could spend money on is kind of control, and basically to either get people who are used to kind of facilitating things, and there are a lot of people who exist in the more kind of secret cinema, street games type of land that are really good actors and stuff, and will come and do this for money that if you had an extra £1,000 could be quite affordable. And so having them as key NPCs or as plot control, or even if it wasn't all of your control team, a few seated around the room, they could really kind of enhance player experiences. Even if you just had your quest giver who was doing these plots, who is really kind of up in character and help driving a narrative. So I would be torn if you were to actually ask me to do it, which one I'm going to do, more kind of better components, graphics, set dressing, all that. I think initially I come down on the kind of set dressing and components, but that is just because I've got more familiarity of it.
Nice. Okay, we have one from Andrew SD. In all the games you've played, which role, if you were able to play any game again, would you love to have a go at? Chris, we'll go to you for that one.
Oh, I can tell you that easily. I played Watch the Skies, which was sort of a, 40, 50 person player game in Reading a few years ago. And I was the Russian president. And I was mortally wounded by the end of the day, but I'd launched the nuke at Berlin, massacred millions of people, and it was so much fun. I would do that again in a drop of a hat.
You were a monster.
Angry Russian president. Oh, no.
Monster.
Says the man who put the UN on top of a nuclear bomb. At least I didn't do that.
Hey, that was a purely defensive maneuver. We weren't sure about the loyalty of the UN, and I thought best to put them in a confined, safe, secure location, and that just to be a bunker in the middle of the desert with a clear weapon underneath it.
True, and they did love being locked in that room arguing for even more time than it normally got.
Nobody complained.
They really didn't. But yes, that's the role I would take up in an instant. And I'd love to play Russian president of Large Watch the Skies. I would have so much fun. I can't tell you.
Matt, how about you?
There's a couple that I really enjoy being president of China and Watch the Skies for a team of 9 people, 320 people in the room, absolute chaos. Absolutely the type of thing I love. I also have a love-hate relationship with the lead kind of runner role in Alex Beck's Mirror Shades universe. And there's part of me that wants to go back and try and climb that mountain, but I know it will frustrate me greatly, but it is a sense of catharsis, so it's still up there in my mind. But it's between that or playing a kind of a big nation in a huge Watch the Skies again.
Nice.
What about you, Harrison?
Well, my question would be if Andrew is the Andrew who was the treasurer in 3. I'm not sure because that Everybody Dies 3 is the one I wish I had have another go at. Yes, he was. Okay, cool. So what I would do is I would knife you at the very, very beginning of that initial small council session instead of allowing you to run out the back door with all of our treasury.
It might have changed our game if you managed to do that.
It would have changed our entire day if I managed to do that. My single biggest regrets in Megagame. I'm on my
Sweet
way
move, Andrew. Sweet move.
On my way to do it, I got
where you stole all the cash.
Oh god.
Oh, you better it so badly.
Okay. So, shall we get the last quick one in? How do you think the development of online mega games is going in this weird?
Hey! I'm the moderator of this podcast.
I'm just trying to get it in under time.
Okay, I think we've got time for one last question. How do you think the development of online mega games is going in this weird time? And I'll go over to Matt for that because I think he's got thoughts on it.
Smooth, very smooth.
Oh God, no, he was trying to get other people to answer it first.
See, not just anyone can moderate these things, Matt. Don't think you can do my job.
It's just people. I'm going to say that I think they're going really well. So the kind of variants on the kind of classic stuff has been really interesting. So one of the Den of Wolves I went to, where there was kind of AI stuff that was implemented, was really quite cool. John Keyworth ran a playtest for a 40k inspired game, and that was really good, with really good use of kind of Roll20, and then later in another iteration something he'd written himself. And that was really cool because it was allowing you basically to do all of the negotiation shenanigans that you're doing in a mega game while actually having a cleaner interface that you didn't have to worry about so much as a player anyway, that you didn't have to worry so much about what dice you were rolling because it was all happening via computer. And that's the type of technology combination I would really like to see. If we can use technology to actually get deeper rules into a mega game, so we don't have to worry about people reading big rule sets for a game they're turning out to play once, you can get some of that kind of rules complexity that adds to play because you can get the computer to do it.
Amazing. Okay, and we're just about to run out of time, so I'm not going to let Chris answer that question, and I'm just going to say that I think if we can say one good thing's come from lockdown, it's been the creation and the modifying of online mega games, because I think the variety in the space is awesome. So I think that's probably it. It's now 9 o'clock, so I don't know what happens now. I guess we just.
I think we just called it there.
Well, we say if you want to learn more, go to megagameassembly.com and head over to Facebook.
There we go. Yes, megagameassembly.com, and you'll find all of our things there. And thank you very much for hanging around and listening to us waffle on. I'm sorry that Matt screwed up the PowerPoint. Apologise on behalf of Matt.
Got dumped on him. It's all Chris's fault, really. You can't do that.